Welcome to SPSS Lecture 2. The first thing you'll need to do is go to canvas.apu.edu. Okay. Go to our class, go to Files. The data file we're going to use is the same data file that was posted week 1. Okay, so week 1, SPSS Lecture Data Example. But the actual assignment is going to be posted under week 2, SPSS Lecture 2. Okay, so just go ahead and download this document. So these are the 2 files you should have. So let's go. So SPSS Lecture 2 is going to cover central tendency and variability. So the first concept we're going to talk about is the concept of reverse coding. Identify the big 5 inventory variables, BFI 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., all the way to 18. Specifically, we're looking at the neuroticism subscale, and yeah, we're not actually looking at the openness subscale. That's what it looks like. So let's just focus on the neuroticism subscale. So what is neuroticism? People high in neuroticism tend to be depressed, tend to be anxious, tend to have a more reactive personality than people low in neuroticism. People low in neuroticism are more stable, less anxious, less depressed. But to really understand what neuroticism means, let's go ahead and take a look at these items. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the SPSS file, and I'm going to find these big 5 inventory items. Okay, that's cool. So let's go ahead and scroll down. Oh, that's not it, is it? Oh yeah, it is. Okay, so it looks like there's 18 items. Oops. So I'm just going to drag down and copy all of these into an Excel file, just so we can talk about it a little. Okay. Okay, and that should load up. So I'll go ahead and dump these variables here. I'm going to go back to get the actual items. So the actual label, or what the actual neuroticism items we're asking, are here. So let's go ahead and do that. Oops. You'll notice there's some variables called like BFI 3R. Let's go ahead and delete those. 3R, 9R. Okay, so let's try to first identify the variables that are related to openness, and then the variables that are related to neuroticism. So depressed blue is going to be related to neuroticism. Original is going to be related to openness. Is relaxed, handle stress well is going to be related to neuroticism. Curious, openness. Can be tense, neuroticism. Is ingenious, openness. Worries a lot, neuroticism. Has an active imagination, openness. Emotionally stable, neuroticism. Inventive, openness. Can be moody, neuroticism. Values artistic, aesthetics, and experiences, openness. Remains calm in tense situations, neuroticism. Prefers work that is routine, openness. Gets nervous easily, neuroticism. Likes to reflect, openness. Has few artistic interests, openness. Sophisticated, and music. Okay, so we've identified the variables that are related to neuroticism and the variables that are related to openness. I'm going to go ahead and try to organize these a little better. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of like do cut and pasting and just try to separate them out. Okay, great. So let's just verify these are all openness related items. Okay. So what does it mean to be high in neuroticism? People who score high in neuroticism are going to answer in the following way. Are you ready? Let's look at the possible values. So for each of these labels or statements, they could answer 1, disagree strongly, all the way up to 5, agree strongly. So depressed blue, someone who is highly neurotic is going to say strongly agree. Okay, so they're going to score high. Okay, so let's write H. Is relaxed, handle stress well. Someone who's neurotic is going to score low on this one. Can be tense. Someone who's neurotic is going to score high. Worries a lot. Someone who's neurotic is going to score high. Emotionally stable, not easily upset. Someone who's neurotic is going to score high. Can be moody. Oh, oops. Emotionally stable, not easily upset. Someone who's neurotic is going to score low. Can be moody, high. Remains calm in tense situations, low. Gets nervous easily, high. So what do you notice here? Okay. So from a mathematical standpoint, one was strongly disagree, 5 was strongly agree. Okay, so here's how someone who is the highest in neuroticism is going to answer. 5, 1, 5, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5. So the problem here is if we took an average of these numbers, it wouldn't reflect the person's actual neuroticism score because some items are going in the positive direction, meaning a high value means high neuroticism, and some are going in the negative direction. Low values mean low neuroticism. So what we would have to do is these items where scoring low means high in neuroticism, we have to reverse code them. So if someone scored 1, in all actuality, if we reverse score it, now they score 5. Okay. And then now what we expect is going to happen. So let's just carry over these other 5s. So now someone who scores the highest in neuroticism is going to have an average neuroticism score or a neuroticism composite of 5. Okay, so this is key, and this is the reason why we have to reverse code. Let me go ahead and save this so I can post it. Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and minimize that, and then let's take a look at what's going on here. Okay, perfect. So indicate the items that need to be reverse coded, reverse code them, provide a screenshot using Snipping Tool. Okay, so let's just go ahead and indicate the items that need to be reverse coded. Okay, so I'm going to open up the Excel file real quick. And we need our Word file as well. Okay. So it looks like we need to reverse code 3. So BFI, and this is specifically for neuroticism. Okay, we need to do BFI underscore 3. We also have to do BFI underscore 9, right? And then we also have to do BFI underscore 13. In order to be complete, let's just go ahead and take a look at openness as well while we're at it. Okay? So if someone scores high in original, that means they're open to new experiences, is curious about many different things. So if they score high, they're open, is ingenious, open, has an active imagination, open, is inventive, open, values artistic, open, prefers work that is routine. So someone who scores high in openness is going to score low on this item because they don't like work that is routine. They like work that's new and exciting. Okay, likes to reflect and play with ideas. Someone who scores high in this is going to score high in openness, has few artistic interests. Someone who scores high in openness will score low in this, right? Sophisticated in music, art, or literature. So someone who scores high in this will score high in openness. So it appears like for openness we're gonna reverse code 14 and 17. So let me just mark this down. So I said BFI underscore 14, BFI underscore 17. Okay, perfect. So now let's go ahead and reverse code these variables using SPSS. So in order to do that, as you can see, I already have these reverse coded variables in the data file. So I have 3, 9, 13, 14, and 17. So it looks like we're all set to go. So all we have to do is go to transform, recode into different variables. So go ahead and right click here and say display variable names only. Let's go ahead and head down to BFI. Okay. So we have to reverse code BFI 3, BFI 9. Okay. BFI 13, 14, and 17. So as you can see, it's saying, what are we going to call it? Well, BFI underscore 3R. So what it's going to do, because we already have the variables made, it's just going to overwrite the variable that's there, right? If you were to do this without having these variables made, it would create the variable and toss it to the end of your data file. So then you could just move it right back under the BFI section if you wanted to. So I always make the name and label the same. So let's do the same thing. BFI 9. Okay. BFI underscore 13R. BFI underscore 14R. BFI underscore 17R. Okay, perfect. So what we can do here is take a screenshot. For those of you using Windows, go ahead and search for something called Snipping Tool. It's very user-friendly. You can easily take a screenshot and then copy and paste it into the Word file. For Mac users, you hit Command, Shift, and the 4 key. It allows you to take a snapshot. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to I'll paste it in the Word document later. But now, the second part of reverse coding is you have to go to old and new variables. So as you remember, we were looking at the values, and 1 is disagree strongly, and 5 is agree strongly. So in order to reverse code, we have to switch the values around. So for these variables, if they scored 1, it now becomes 5, right? If they scored 2, it now becomes 4. If they scored 3, it now becomes 3. If they scored 4, it now becomes 2. If they scored 5, it now becomes 1. Okay, perfect. We can go ahead and take a screenshot of this too. Okay, so once you have that all lined up, press OK, and it's going to reverse code all of those variables. I'm going to take a moment, and I'm going to going to close this. I'm going to copy and paste all these screenshots. Okay, let's see what we have to do next. Okay, indicate the items that need to be reverse coded, provide a screenshot using Snipping Tool. Why are we reverse coding these items? Okay, so let's go ahead and enter that information. So I'll go ahead and write it out and then I'll talk about it. Okay, this should do it. We reverse coded the noted variables to ensure all of the variables are going in the same direction. For example, a high score on BFI 1 would mean high neuroticism, but a high score on BFI 3 would mean low neuroticism. Once BFI 3 is reverse coded as noted above, a high score on BFI 3 would now mean high neuroticism. So that's a great summary. That's exactly why we're doing what we just did. Okay. So the next thing we have to do is we have to create a neuroticism mean composite using the following variables. So what is that going to look like? Let's go ahead and copy these just to make sure that we do it correctly. So we need to go to SPSS. Okay. And you just need to go to transform compute variable. And we're going to set our target variable to, hey, it looks like I already did this. We're going to set our target variable to neuroticism underscore mean. And let me delete this so we can do it again. And I'm pasting this here just so we make sure we're doing the right thing. Okay. Here we need to right click, display variable names. Let's go ahead and find our BFI. So for neuroticism, we need to add BFI 1, comma. Oh, and so this numerical expression, I just included a mean. When you form a composite, so basically a score for a variable, so it could be neuroticism, it could be self-esteem, whatever, you either take a sum or a mean. I prefer doing a mean. So all you have to do is type in mean, open parentheses, and then start adding your items. So BFI 1, for example, comma, and then BFI 3, comma, BFI 5, comma, BFI 7, comma, BFI 9R, comma, BFI 11, comma, BFI 13R, comma, BFI 15. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. We have BFI 1, 3R, 5, 7, 9R, 11, 13R, and 15. So that seems good to me. So we could go ahead and take a screenshot here. And then go ahead and hit OK. Since the variable already exists, we're going to override it. So just say OK. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up our Word file again. And let's just paste this in. Okay. So the next thing we have to do is we have to determine the minimum Q1, Q2, Q3, max, mean, range, interquartile range, standard deviation, and variance. We need to provide a definition of each in the context of this distribution of neuroticism scores. Okay. So it sounds like a lot, but it's not too bad. So once again, we just have to go back to SPSS. We go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and then we go to Explore. So basically, you have to look through the list, and I already found it, but you just need to find, I just lost it, this neuroticism mean variable that you just created and put it in the dependent list. Okay. So we can take a screenshot of that, you know. Then we go to statistics, and it says descriptive and percentiles. That's what we need. Then we go to plots. We need stem and leaf and histogram, so we're good to go. Options. Yeah, we don't need to worry about that. We don't have to worry about Bootstrap. So you can just hit OK. And it'll run a whole bunch of analyses. The ones we care about this descriptive box. So let's go ahead and take a snapshot of that. Hold on. Okay. expand this. Okay, so we just took a bunch of snapshots. Let's go ahead and integrate those into SPSS. I mean, into Word. So at home, if you have dual monitors, this actually works a lot better. Yes, this is where we start. So we did this. And then we did this. Then we did this. And now we have our statistics. We could just drop it in there. I'm going to start these on their own page. Make them a little smaller if need be. Okay, so let's get some definitions down here. First off, we have the minimum value. Okay, and well, let's write everything out. So we need the minimum value, we need the Q1, which remember is the first quartile. It's also known as the 25th percentile, which is really important for interpretation reasons. Q2, which is known as the 50th percentile. Okay, and then we have the Q3 that's known as the 75th percentile. Okay, and then we have the max, and then we have the mean, and then we have the range. Okay, and then we have the inner quartile range, or the IQR. And then we have the standard deviation. And then we have the variance. Okay, so let's go ahead and find the minimum. So here it says the minimum is 1.13. The Q1, or the 25th percentile, is going to be right here, and it is 2.34. The median, or the 50th percentile, which is also known as the Q2, is right here. So it should be 2.88, and it's also right here. Same number. Then we have the Q3, that's the 75th percentile, and here it is, 3.38. Okay, and then we have the max, which is 4.75. And then we have the mean, which is 2.87. Okay. And then we have the range, which is 3.63. And then we have the inner quartile range, which is 1.03. And then we have the standard deviation, which is 0.74. And then we have the variance, which is 0.55. So it's good. So at least we have the numbers. So the next thing we have to work on is our interpretations. So I'll go ahead and write the interpretations right now. Okay, so 1.13 is the lowest score in our distribution of neuroticism scores. Okay. For the Q1 or the 25th percentile, 25% of the neuroticism mean scores are below 2.34 and 75% are above 2.34. Now the language for Q2 and Q3 is the same. So we'll just copy and paste and just modify a few things. So this one's going to be 50% of the neuroticism mean scores are below 2.88 and 50% are above 2.88. So then this one is 75% of the neuroticism mean scores are below 3.38 and 25% are above 3.38. Okay, 4.75 is the highest score in our distribution of neuroticism scores. The average neuroticism score is 2.87. So again, central tendency and variability are descriptive statistics. So right now we're describing the distribution of neuroticism data. So the range is the maximum minus the minimum. You could also say the range of 100% of the neuroticism data is 3.63. Okay. IQR is going to be the Q3 minus the Q1, and you can also say the range of the middle 50% of the data is 1.03. So something like this. For standard deviation, it's the average deviation of scores in the data from the mean. Hold on, let me think about this. The average deviation of scores, from the mean is 0.74. There we go, that was working. Okay, and then variance is simply the standard deviation squared. Okay, perfect. So those are those are our interpretations. I talk more about these interpretations in my other by hand video for chapter 3 and chapter 4. So the next thing we have to do is create a histogram. Well, we've actually already done that. So the histogram is right here. So again, I'm just going to take a screenshot. So I believe it's asking for a histogram. It's asking for the stem and leaf plot. It's asking for this box plot. I think that's it. Okay, so the histogram is here. So there's the histogram. The stem and leaf plot is here. And then the box plot is going to be this one. Okay. Based on the histogram, stem and leaf plot, box plot, and descriptive statistics, indicate the skew of the distribution. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and write the interpretation, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so this is our first statement. So based on the histogram, stem and leaf plot, and the box plot, it appears that the distribution of neuroticism scores is normally distributed. I came to this conclusion because when I approximated a curve, I found that the tails of the distribution were equal. Okay, so if you approximate a curve, right, the tails look equal, right? The left tail is about the same as the right tail. You could see that in the stem and leaf plot, and you could see that in the box plot as well. So again, if the tail was pointing to the left, it would be negatively skewed. If it was pointing to the right, it would be positively skewed. So let's write a little more. Oh, I have something else to add. Okay, moreover, when looking at the box plot, I found that both tails, that is the min to the Q1 and Q3 to the max, were equal. This is an indication that the distribution is normally distributed. So, okay, the points aren't labeled like we do it in our by hand stats, so watch the video for that. But here you have the min, here you have the Q1, here you have the Q3, and here you have the max. Okay, so when these whiskers or tails are equal, the data is said to be normally distributed. If this lower end tail is longer than this upper end tail, you're looking at a negatively skewed distribution. And if this tail is longer than this lower end tail, you're looking at a positively skewed distribution. Okay, one last statement. Okay, furthermore, I can conclude that the distribution is normally distributed because the mean and the median are equal. So let's just go take a look at that. Just back up to our descriptive statistics. We have the median at 2.87, or we can round that to 2.88, and the mean is 2.87, so they're super close. So there you have it. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is we have to use these definitions to identify outliers. So UL, the 75th percentile is going to be our Q3. So what's our Q3? 3.38, right? So we're going to have 3.38 plus 1.5 as a constant, and then we have to find our IQR. Looks like our IQR is going to be 1.03. Okay, perfect. Okay, we could do the same thing for the lower outlier, or the lower limit. So it's going to be, yeah, the only difference here is we're going to have to find the Q1. The Q1 is going to be 2.34. Okay. So I'm going to get my calculator and let's go ahead and solve this. So we have 1.5 multiplied by 1.03. It's going to give you 1.545, and add that to 3.38. You're going to get 4.93. Okay. So let's do the same thing. So actually this should be a minus. So 1.5 multiplied by 1.03 is going to be 1.545. So we're going to take that and subtract it from 2.34. And we'll get 0.80. Okay, so let me write the interpretation. Great. It says, based on the IQR definition of outliers, neuroticism scores that are 4.93 or higher. Do we have any that are 4.93 or higher? So let's just look at the maximum. Our maximum is 4.75. So we don't have any that are 4.93 or higher. And those that are 0.8 or lower, our minimum is 1.13. So we don't have any there, are considered outliers. This definition does not identify any outliers. So we just determined that. Okay. Well, thank you very much. That is the end of SPSS Lecture 2. Be sure to email me if you have any questions. Take care. Bye.